Where do taxi drivers go when they need to buy a taxi? Well, the Taxi Centre have supplied cars to the trade for over 20 years, and they stock a huge range of motors from the world's leading manufacturers: Skoda, Kia, Toyota, Mercedes, Nissan, Ford, Hyundai, you name it. They've got saloons, MPVs, estates, minibuses, prestige cars, the lot, all under one roof, ready for immediate collection or free delivery anywhere on the mainland UK. With taxi trade exclusive discounts, flexible finance options and no hidden fees. They even throw in registration and 12 months road tax. So if you're a taxi driver who needs a new or used taxi, where would you go? TheTaxiCentre.com. Trade only.
The Go Radio Football Show with the Taxi Centre. Hosted by Paul Cooney, Barry Ferguson and Davy Provan. Listen live weeknights from 5. Talking Scottish football first.
Let's go!
Well, the 3 games in the Premiership go ahead tonight despite all the worries about the rising COVID cases and the fact that from this weekend, from Boxing Day, a crowd limit of 500, whether you're at Celtic Park with 60,000, Ibrox with 50,000 or Stenhousemuir with a couple of thousand, it's 500. The crazy decision at the moment is going to be discussed though tonight. 7 o'clock, a meeting of the SPFL board. Davy, the key thing is the games are going to get ahead so far, but there's confusion for everybody.
Well, it makes no sense, Paul. If you consider that 50,000 people were allowed to go to Hampden last weekend at a time where the Scottish Government were well aware of Omicron and where this virus was heading, it makes no sense to stop the game now. In my opinion, the game of football in this country has taken a right good kicking. It was on its knees previously. There is no furlough scheme now. The clubs have done everything that has been asked of them in terms of testing. Most of the players are vaccinated now. The clubs have bent over backwards, and they're getting another kick in the teeth when they can least afford it.
And you heard Michael from Bucksbar on the news there. The hospitality industry has been absolutely decimated, Barry, by COVID. I mean, we want to look after everyone, of course we do. People should get jabbed, double jabbed, get your booster. It's a really difficult one. I'd hate to be in charge of the country, but there's so much indecision at the moment and so many different rules.
Yeah, as in terms of the hospitality sector, it's took an absolute battering over the last couple of years. In terms of football, I've got to agree with Davey. There was 50,000 fans at Ibrox on the Saturday and 50,000 fans at Hampden and the Sunday for the League Cup final. And then they decide in Boxing Day to cut it down to 500. But there's 3 games tonight that are allowed full capacity. Now, I'm looking at the games, Hibs and Aberdeen. That'll be close to a full house tonight. That's a great game. St Johnstone, Ross County. St Johnstone bottom of the league, Ross County second bottom. I'm sure the Saints fans will be out in force to try and support their team. And it's going to be a full house at St Mirren Park, St Mirren against Celtic. So I find it strange that they're allowing fans in tonight. Then come Boxing Day, it's 500.
If it's about contagion, if it's about public health, which it is, that's what they're trying to do to help people though, Davy. Barry, it's a good point, isn't it?
There's so much contradiction about it. I mean, if I'm reading this correctly, and the rules are changing every 5 minutes, but if I'm reading this correctly, after Boxing Day, only 500 people would be allowed into a football match. Down the road in the pub, you could sit in a crowded pub and watch the game indoors in a pub, and yet you can't sit outdoors reasonably spaced from your fellow supporters. Now that to me makes no sense whatsoever.
It doesn't. It's hard to understand, Barry. And inevitably people will say, what is going to happen? Are Sky going to allow them if they decide tonight? What do you think is going to happen, Davy, Barry? There's a chance that they will say, well, stop, let's go for the winter break now.
I think Sky generally try and accommodate the wishes of the SPFL, the clubs.
Yeah.
And there is a meeting tonight. There would appear to be a consensus for bringing the winter break forward, and I can understand Rangers' opposition to that because they would rather play the big game in an empty stadium, wouldn't they? But that may be one way of lessening the impact, the financial impact for clubs going forward.
Barry?
Yeah, I can see where Rangers are coming from. You look at the next game they've got, it's at Mirren at home. They're obviously been hit hard with COVID, and then they've got 2 massive games, one against Aberdeen up at Pittodrie, which is normally a full house. What is it, 17, 18,000? And obviously you've got the game in January 2nd when you're going away to Celtic Park, and there's going to be 62,000 Celtic fans in. So look, you look after yourself. You look out for the best interests. I can see why Rangers are wanting the games to go ahead, and also Ross County seem the same way, because they in between, I think they're away to Hearts, but they've got 2 home games up at Dingwall, and their form at home has been pretty decent. So listen, you look after yourself.
And Rangers are also worried that because of the African nations.
Yep, I forgot to mention that. Again, after the winter break, you're going to lose Balogun. I know he's been out injured. Bassey, who's been another present under Gio, and for me, Rangers' top player at this moment in time, Joe Aribo. So that's 3 big players you're going to be missing. So I can fully understand where Rangers are coming from.
But 2 years ago, Rangers went to Celtic for the New Year's game, and they beat Celtic in front of 60,000 fans, 500 or 600 of whom were Rangers fans. So it was 59,000 Celtic fans. It didn't do them any harm then. I'd love to see Football United on it, but maybe that's naive.
Yeah, not with 40 million quid up for grabs at the end of the season, Paul. I can see where Rangers are coming from. I'm sure Celtic would be taking the same stance, but from what we're reading, there appears to be a consensus within the league clubs that they want to pull the winter break forward, and I think there's a decent chance that'll happen.
Well, we will know tonight, Barry. Later on, 7 o'clock meeting, people will look after what they think is in the best interest of their club. What do you feel if it does stop? What would you say if they stop the league early for 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
I can see both points, Paul.
Sure,
I can see. Listen, this virus is sweeping the country. There's no doubt about it, and I can understand where clubs are coming from, and I can understand the 2 clubs where they're coming from who want the games to go ahead. So they'll need to. Listen, the decision will come at 7 o'clock. We just need to wait and see what that decision is going to be.
There's a meeting of the clubs from the Championship, the first in your own First Division and Second Division is going on at the moment, but we won't know till later, probably tomorrow morning, about what's going on there. Your next game, Barry, you're due to play this
it's
weekend.
All changed again. We've got to test every single day. We're only part-time. It's the same for every part-time club. We do our normal regime on a Tuesday and a Thursday and match day, but the days that they're not in at the club, they have got to send a test in by 6 o'clock that day. So that's one of the big changes. And there'll be another couple of changes, I would imagine. We get told last night. We just need to wait to see how the meeting goes and what's going to happen going forward.
Tough, Davy. Would you fancy playing these days and getting these tests every single day? And there's a part-time club having to do it as well.
I would do it if I had to do it, Paul.
Yeah,
and as I said earlier on, the game in general has bent over backwards to comply with all the regulations, and there have been many. And you know, this is the last. I think this is the last thing the game needs at this particular moment, this time of the year, where clubs count on good festive crowds coming through the turnstiles. The last thing they need is a shutdown. And I would have to say, and I might be accused of being an ex-Celtic player who's trying to promote Celtic's cause here, but I think it would make more sense to bring the winter break forward. And I think Nicola Sturgeon's embargo would finish around 17th, 18th of January. You would then have a week or 8 days to play a couple of the games, and try and get the games in, if you like.
Yeah.
See, the only issue I've got there, Davey, is both Rangers and Celtic are still in Europe. You've got an international game coming up as well. It may be difficult to fit them in. So that's why maybe they're taking a bit of time. If they are going to bring this winter break forward, where can they fit the games in? Because there is a lot of football still to be played.
I mean, you do. You need the wisdom of Solomon to solve it. I mean, it's a pandemic. We know it is, but it's really, really difficult. We would love the game to continue and for people to be able to go to football.
And we want crowds,
outside.
We want crowds as well.
The game
that for me is
fans.
another reason to bring the winter break forward.
Yeah.
You know, and then if Nicola Sturgeon's, she's closed the game down basically until run to the 17th or 18th, and then after that, hopefully. This pandemic has lessened somewhat, and we might be allowed crowds back into grounds, and then we can play as many games as we possibly can. But I accept Barry's case here as well. It's such a crowded fixture list that it's going to be very difficult.
Your old international boss, Jock Stein, said the game without fans is nothing.
Well, I think the game, even last season, it wasn't the same, was it? It was For a lot of the time, it was training ground football. It looked like training ground football.
Remember at the beginning, we loved the German thing that first week when we saw them when they came on, and then it just was different, wasn't it?
It wasn't as intense. No. The pace of the game was different. We need crowds back in the grounds, not just for the players, but for the clubs, for the income. They've done it. The game of football's done its bit. It needs a break.
And we need
it. Was eerie watching it last. I didn't enjoy it. I think if you ask any football player who participated in any of the games with no fans in the stadiums, they wouldn't have enjoyed it. That's why you want to be a football player, to play in front of big crowds. So I didn't enjoy it last year, and hopefully it doesn't come back to that, if I'm being honest with you, because look, the fans, I mean, we all go on about the football players and the clubs, and rightly so, but the fans suffered as well. They didn't get out and get to watch their teams, and that's when mental health and all that sort of stuff kicks in as well.
Still playing on in the Premier League in England, Davy?
Yeah.
It's strange, isn't it? They're playing on who's right, who's wrong. Well,
if you remember back to the beginning of this pandemic, and I suggested in here that if the English Premier League had to play the games on the moon, they would find a way to get it done, because there is so much money at stake down there. And, there's a lot of money at stake up here as well, remember. Sky's I think Sky are the biggest benefactor to the game up here. So they will try and get the games played.
But ironically, we need the fans in more than ever in Scotland, because we don't get anything like the revenue that they get in England, as you know, from Sky and BT and all the rest. But we depend on the people coming through the turnstiles.
I've seen an interview with Dave Cormack. He says when it goes down to that 500 fans, I think Boxing Day until the winter break, Aberdeen are going to lose in the region of £500,000.
£500,000.
And especially what's that, 6-7 days?
Of course.
It's a hell of a lot of money.
It's huge for one club. It's really, really difficult. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but to say that you can have 500 in a ground like Celtic Park,
crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
Or Ibrox. Come on, we can do a bit better than this, surely. What is the number then? Is it 5,000? I get it. Most people are being jagged. We want to look after people. Of course we do. But I think just to go 500 is a bit... Come on, we're better than that,
That's
surely.
why I think, if you bring the winter break forward, and, when this 3-week hiatus is finished, then you get the Old Firm game on as soon as possible in a full house. A full house. And I'm pretty sure Sky would be agreeable to that. Sky, I don't think Sky in the business have shown football matches in front of 50,000 empty seats. It all adds to the spectacle if you have a crowd in the ground. Of course.
We've got 3 games on tonight. We're going to talk about them. What do you think about what should happen? Give us a call. 0808 17 17 700. Paul Cooney with Barry Ferguson and Davy Provan. The game's on tonight. Hibs against Aberdeen, St Johnstone against Ross County, and it's really a decimated St Mirren line-up against Celtic. We'll bring you the line-ups in not much more than second hour of the programme. We'll have the lineups for the games. 0808 17 17 700. It's been a quieter week for Rangers. They are 7 points clear at the top of the table, as we know, after the win against Dundee United at the weekend. So Rangers have had a few days off. GVB has not been on media duty, so we're not going to hear from him just now. Ange Postecoglou, though, has been speaking to us after Celtic's win in the Cup at the weekend's Cup final victory. Be great to talk about football now, Barry, won't it? We're up for it. Let's start talking about football, Davey, as well. But first of all, he's speaking here about an early winter break.
I just can't look at these things as some sort of hypothetical situation, because if I use all my time trying to figure out whether that's a good solution, and then tomorrow somebody says to me, "Oh no, actually this is happening," then I'll just waste limited brain space I have. It's something that may or may not happen. And like I said, all these things are obviously a concern. It's not like I said, I'm not dismissing them, but you'd appreciate, not just me, every person in my position at the moment, probably everyone, yourselves including life, there are things happening on an hourly basis that could potentially affect your life. You just got to deal with what's before you. There's a game tomorrow which is on at the moment. I mean, that's at the forefront of my mind,
And what about playing behind closed doors with 5? It's virtually no fans. What does he think?
My instant reaction is, I don't like it in terms, I don't like football played behind closed doors. I had pretty much a season of it in Japan, and I just didn't enjoy it. To me, it becomes a different game, becomes, a different sort of environment even for the players. And of course, my preference is to play with supporters in there, even if it was a reduced capacity. But again, as with all these things, we have to follow the guidelines and have to follow whatever protocols are put in place, and we as a club have to accept that and just get on with it.
Davey, on the game itself, St Mirren against Celtic tonight. Celtic need the points. It's unthinkable from their point of view to go, to stay 7 points behind Rangers.
I said after the cup final at the weekend, Paul, that the next game, the next league game, is always a tricky one, because there is a sense of anticlimax. 1 minute you're running around Hampden with a ticker tape in the cup, and the next minute, with no disrespect to Paisley, you're running out. Is in New Love Street. I'm not sure what it's called now. But it's a totally less glamorous environment. And also you've got to remember that Ange Postecoglou is without Turnbull, he's without Forrest, he's without Jota. And maybe that's another reason why he would quite happily have the season finished now, have the winter break now, and then when they resume, he might have some of his top boys back.
Barry, did you find it hard after winning a cup to then play just a few days later somewhere like Love Street?
Yeah, well, certainly the League Cup. I mean, the Scottish Cup's different because that's
you're on holiday. Where were you? Mallorca.
Yeah, could have been
what was
anywhere.
your favourite place? Let's think about it.
Could have been anywhere because the celebrations lasted 3 or 4 days.
What was your favourite place to go with Rangers? Where did you like to go? I think we need to hear about some sunshine, don't we?
Park Brewery.
Where was it? Where was it? Marbella?
No, but see, to be honest with you, after as soon as the Scottish Cup finished, we were away with the family.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
We celebrated with the team, obviously, for 2, 3, maybe 4 days, and then it was family holidays.
Away.
Yeah. But in terms of the League Cup, it was hard because you're obviously in the high, and then as David says, no disrespect, but you are going to a smaller stadium, a tighter pitch. The surface is not going to be as good, but they need to be bang on it because Celtic need to win tonight. Even a draw, I don't think it's good enough. 6 points. They need to make sure they get the 3 points and get the margin back to 4 points behind Rangers.
And look at Dundee United. They came to Ibrox at the weekend. They were also not quite decimated, but they were badly hit. They had some really young players in, and they came close to getting a point. Yeah,
Rangers weren't good. You heard Giovanni saying that he wasn't happy with the performance, but the main thing is getting to 3 points. James Tavernier obviously scoring the penalty. It gave him a chance to take Aribo out of the team, because if he get booked he would be missing then the Old Firm game. So listen, it wasn't an ideal performance, but the most important thing is you get to 3 points.
Go Radio Football Show, give us a call 0808 17 17 700. We'll be winding up towards kick-off tonight in the 3 big games.
The Go Radio Football Show with the Taxi Centre. Save on your new taxi with exclusive discounts across Skoda, Toyota, Ford, Seat and more. Let's go!
Go Radio Football Show, 22nd of December. Happy birthday, Paul, young Paul.
You're here.
And exactly. A few years ago, saying young Paul. Yes, he's young Paul. Young at heart. Have a great day, son. Have a brilliant birthday. And for everyone celebrating a birthday, 3 days to go to Santa.
Still give you worries even at that age.
No, I still give him worries.
At least you're honest.
Barry. You're looking forward to the panto, aren't you?
Yeah, I love. Listen, Christmas is great, especially now that all the kids are going to be together. Because obviously one of my kids is away overseas playing football. The other one's moved out 4 or 5 months ago. So it'll be good to have everybody together and enjoy Christmas.
Davey, going to get together with the girls?
Yeah. All together on Christmas Day. Yeah,
fantastic.
Looking forward to it.
Brilliant. A lot of football over the period at the moment. There are meetings going on at the moment. It looks as though the Championship are minded to continue playing just now. But we'll give you firm details soon. So there's a meeting of the Championship this afternoon, 1st and 2nd Division, and then the SPFL board at 7 tonight. Sean's on the line. Sean, good evening.
Hi, Merry Christmas, guys, when it comes. Hopefully start off good to you.
And to you,
Sean.
Too, Sean.
Sean.
All the very best.
Same to you, Sean.
Sean, what are you thinking? What would you do if you were First Minister?
If I was First Minister, I don't think I would want to do that job, to be honest.
No, I know. But in football, what would you do just now? Would you stop
To be honest,
or keep going?
To be honest, Paul, I would stop, because see, when it comes to, I'm speaking for a Rangers fan. So if you get an Old Firm on the 2nd of January, there's got to be house parties, or people have got to go to the pub, heavy drink, and you know when it's an Old Firm game, people drink about 9 o'clock in the morning, and then you've got Aberdeen before that in the 29th, vice versa, and then vice versa with Celtic games as well. I think it's madness. Either stop no fans allowed, or you have some sort of fans, more than 500, because 500 fans, like, if you can travel to Ibrox and have 500 fans, you can go to Tenhousemuir and have 500 fans. To me, that's just, I don't know who makes the rules up for that, but that is just that. If you can have a stadium in Scotland, we can have 2,000 people, can have more or less the stadium full, but then you go to Ibrox and Parkhead or Hampden or vice versa, Tynecastle, and you only can have 500 fans. Surely you can get a better one. It's 1 metre distance, so if you only have 500 fans at the big stadiums, it's more than 1 metre distance then, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can't disagree with him. I mean,
Sense.
Yep, if you're going to a League Two stadium that holds 1,500 or 2,000, they're allowed 500. You go to Celtic Park, which holds just over 60,000, Ibrox just over 50,000, and you're only getting 500 fans. Look, if I'm being honest with you, you could get at least 20,000 in there, socially distanced.
Sure. And
plus, they're outside.
Of course, yeah. And it could continue. And we're all getting the vaccinations, or most people are, and we urge you to get that. We really should.
And more people, I think, it get mentioned today, that was the most that's had the booster in 1 day. So the vast majority of people are getting vaccinated and boosted.
You're getting yours soon as well?
I've had my booster.
Had it. Good.
Yep.
Excellent.
I got my booster last week.
Good. That's what we should happen.
See, to be honest, I know I don't like going into politics with this, but see if we're all getting jagged and probably 90% of the country's jagged, why are we still getting all these heavy COVID-19 outbreaks? I don't get that. But I see in America, they're actually paying $100 to get your drugs. So,
that's another thing there. But I mean, I think these things mutate, that hopefully it's not as bad as it was before, but it is rising at the moment. But it will rise because it came from a 0 or a position of 1. There were 6, remember, 3 weeks ago. David, what do you feel about Sean's suggestion then that there should be many more in the grounds? Otherwise, just let's can it for 3 weeks.
I'm with him 100%. I think it's a nonsense. I mean, where did they get this arbitrary figure 500 from? On a 60,000 seater ground, you're allowed 500. You're allowed 500 in a ground that holds, it's maybe got 1,000 seats. It's absolute. They've been making it up as they've gone along, and that's one of the reasons I think that football has been so unfairly treated. I do think, I'm pretty sure the SPFL tonight, the Premiership, will vote to bring the winter break forward, and it gives them a better chance of playing games after Nicola Sturgeon's shut down in front of crowds. And that for me is what football's all about, playing in front of crowds, particularly the Old Firm. You asked about Sky's flagship fixture obviously is the Old Firm game. They've got an Edinburgh derby due the day after, and if they can move them back and show them in full stadia, I think they would be well up for that.
And Sean, you've got such a strong squad. You're 7 points clear, even 4. If Celtic win tonight, you've surely got, I know you have, you've got confidence in your team to win the league.
I've got confidence. Maybe not the 25 points. We might cut it down to 10 or something, but I am confident for the Rangers team. So I want it to go. But if you can get maybe increase it to 5 or 10,000, fair dues, keep the season going. But if you're only going to get 500 points, 500 fans, I don't see the point. And I think they're as well just stopping it, because if Aberdeen's got to lose, is it 500,000? Which Rangers and Celtic got to lose?
Well, exactly, Sean. Listen, Sean, thanks very much for calling us. Have a great Christmas.
Yes,
cheers, Sean.
Bye-bye.
Sean speaking a lot of good sense there. It's really difficult when I saw it flash up in Sky there about Scotland and a limit of 500 people at the football. Nah, it doesn't make sense. Look at tonight at Hibs. There'll be 15, 16, maybe 17,000 Hibs against Aberdeen. So my point is, it's a pretty big stadium. And it's a terrific stadium. St Johnstone against Ross County, modern stadium as well. There could be 5,000 or 6,000 tonight. And St Mirren Celtic, modern stadium. It's a smaller, 7,000 or 8,000.
Yeah.
But to say 500 then doesn't make sense. And people are all arguing about it, but actually it needs a bit of decisive action, probably from the leaders in the game.
I think we'll get it tonight. I'm pretty sure we'll get it tonight. I would understand why Rangers would oppose it. Because they would rather play the Old Firm game in an empty ground. But I think it would suit the clubs, obviously, to have the revenue of good crowds. And the only way that they can do that is to bring the winter break forward. And when the 3-week shutdown is over, try and cram in as many games as we can.
Some of the other headlines in the last few days: Southampton were up watching Joe Aribo at the weekend. He was, I know, Barry was winced there, didn't you? Were you pleased he was on the bench anyway for a while?
Yeah, it was good.
He was rested for yellow card.
But he looked the part when he came on for the 20 or so minutes. Look, I'm not surprised that there is going to be interest in Joe Aribo, simply because he's been Rangers' best player this year. And he's added the hardest thing to his game, and that's scoring goals. So he's going to attract interest. I'm sure if you ask any Rangers fan or every Rangers fan, they would love to see him get tied down in a new deal. I know he's got a couple of seasons left. But look, there's going to be interest because he's a very, very good player.
Joe Aribo, you'd pay money to go and see him, wouldn't you?
Yeah, outstanding. I think Ryan Kent's form obviously has improved recently, but over the last 6 months or so, Aribo's been the top performer. Morelos and Kent are the two headline acts, if you like, in terms of Rangers getting really good money for selling players. But Aribo, for me, has been outstanding.
He's come up fast in the rails.
Oh, yeah,
isn't he?
big time.
Terrific
Yeah,
player.
big time.
Yeah, he's improving all the time. I mean, he's got all the attributes a midfielder needs. He's strong, powerful, can get about the pitch, can handle the ball, can dribble. And as I said, he's scoring goals, and that was a brilliant bit of business. I think they paid £300,000. That was the fee that they had to give Charlton. And the way he's performing, you're talking over £10 million now.
Who found him? Do we know who it was?
It was Stephen Gerrard signed him.
Stephen Gerrard. Yeah, I just wonder in the recruitment.
But it's a good
department.
story.
Wilson, no?
I'm not too sure,
before
Davey,
that,
but he came from non-league.
Yep.
I think it was tier 7. I think he was playing in.
Wow. Maybe it was Russell.
Charlton took a chance on him. Had a season or two down there under my ex-teammate Lee Bowyer. He was devastated to lose him, and he's come up here and he's just improved every single season. And for me, he's Rangers' main player.
He sure is. Reminds you a bit, a different player I know, but Tom Rogic, when you talked about a tall midfielder who's getting some goals and playing well, can dance through the defences. Rogic having his best season ever at Celtic.
Yeah, you can put that down to the manager, can't you? There's obviously a relationship there from the Australian national team. Under Neil Lennon, Tom Rogic was a bit part player, and now he's one of the mainstays.
How does that happen, Davey?
I really don't know. I thought Tom Rogic would have left Celtic. The lack of action he got under Neil Lennon, I thought he'd have said, "I'm out of here. I want to play every week." And I think he had a good offer from the Middle East, if I'm right in saying.
Qatar, yep.
Yeah, and the money would have been phenomenal. So I was surprised he stayed, but certainly Ange Postecoglou will be delighted he stayed because he's getting the best out of him.
Big dough, wasn't it? Sorry, guys. Yeah.
We go right.
You got it. I know. I thought Davey was he was wincing at that time.
He's a player. Tom Rogic.
Sure is, isn't he?
He is a player. Not just ability wise, he's strong. Watching the game in Sunday, I think it was Newell a couple of times try to get in about him and he bounced off him.
Yeah.
So again, you wonder why he didn't play for many more than 40, 50 minutes up until this season.
Yeah, I spoke to Craig Moore about that because there was a lot made as his fitness.
Yeah.
He's like, no, there's no issue with his fitness. Trains every day, does the full pre-seasons. Just strange that he never lasted 90 minutes.
You'll be glad he stayed now. There's he's got a silverware. We'll hear from Ange Postecoglou speaking about that, about the cup win, and also about the injury update.
Obviously, Dave Turnbull's, his one was the most significant coming out of the game. He's had a scan, but we haven't got the results yet, so I'm not really sure length of time, but he definitely misses out. Everyone else, we've got a few knocks and niggles from the game, obviously, but I think everyone else will be okay. Kyogo, we're obviously going to have to manage through this period. He's not 100%, so it's unlikely he'll play every game between now and the break. We just got to manage him through this period. From the guys kind of in rehab trying to come back, there's no one that's going to be available for tomorrow night.
Kyogo doesn't sound as though he'll play tonight.
No.
Yep.
That's another reason why I think Ange Postecoglou, if it was down to him, I think he would bring the winter break forward right now and give Kyogo a rest, make sure his hamstring's okay. He was talking about burnout earlier on this season. It would suit him to give Kyogo a rest. And remember though, if that happens and they're trying to play a lot of games January, February, Kyogo's away on World Cup duty. They've got 2 games, 27th of January and I think the 1st of February. So he's going to be away then. And he will be a big miss, and it'll be interesting to see who of there are 3 or 4 Japanese players that Celtic are talking. It would be interesting to see who they get.
Yeah, I think they're going to miss out on that. I'll give you more news in a moment or two. Barry, what about Kyogo? What can you say about him?
I wouldn't like to see him 100%. No, look, watching the game, he did look a bit rusty. I don't know if you agree with me, David. Like, first half an hour, he wasn't the same, but his 2 finishes, let's be honest with you, they were top class. He wasn't getting about as much as possible, but listen, I think he only trained the day before the cup final. But look, that just shows you how important Kyogo is to Celtic.
He had 2 chances, didn't he?
Yep.
The whole night, the whole game, 2 chances, took the both of them, and that's a big game player.
I mean, even the first goal, sorry. A lot of people were saying about the second one. I mean, great chip, no doubt about it, quick free kick. But I thought the first goal was a top class finish as well.
Terrific player, isn't he?
You would hate to play against him.
It's so hard to play
he's just a
against
buzz
him,
bomb. He's got hundreds of loads of energy, and a lot of people going about his ability, and rightly so. But one thing about him I love, his work ethic.
Yeah.
Works so hard for the team. Good team player.
Kyogo hasn't been called up for that one, so that's
right,
that's
that's
the
a
good
bonus.
news. So he
That's a
hasn't
bonus.
been yet. Thank you, James. The Japan manager named an all domestic side for that one.
Right.
So I think he's taken into account players from all over the world, but
Maybe.
for that one.
Have
So that
word
so
with the Japan manager.
exactly. Barry's trying to sort it out there. I see Jordan Henderson, the Liverpool captain, said that he thinks that football's not protecting players enough during the COVID crisis. Because, I mean, we want to look after the players as well, but players can also help themselves by getting
He
jabbed.
was going on about the games as well. I mean, I'd done it when I was down in the Premier League. You play on Boxing Day and then you play on the 28th, 48 hours. I mean, it's a
punishing.
hardship. Yeah, it is. It is. I know they've got big squads, but it is that's a difficult one.
Mentally, is that tough as well, really, when you think?
Yeah, a lot of people think it's just physically, but mentally as well, because you're under pressure. So look, it's a tough. I know a lot of people going about they're paid hundreds of thousands of pounds, and I get that, but it's an entertainment business as well, and you can't expect them to play at the same level for me in Boxing Day then the 28th.
I like the way the manager Jurgen Klopp has spoken about COVID, Davey. I think
Yeah,
he's
so
been
do I.
good
So do I.
leadership.
Yeah, a lot of people have been sitting on the fence, but Klopp is quite adamant the players have to get vaccinated. And I know there have been some figures banded about. And I'm a layman here. I listen to the medics every day. And the one thing that I've consistently heard is that 90% of the people who are seriously ill in hospital with this virus are unvaccinated. Get your jab.
It is a worry, the conspiracy theorists, who are going around saying, this, that happens, please get the jab, get the vaccine.
You've got to listen to the medical experts. And if they say, for me, if I'm listening to them, which, like Davey, I do, and they're telling you to get the vaccination, well, get it.
There's a football analyst on the breakfast show. I heard him on the news this morning with Joe Maguire. Kieran Maguire, no relation, I don't think, but you never know with the Maguires, do you? They're everywhere. And he was saying about the financial impact on the clubs and how it's greater in Scotland because we take a greater proportion of the money through the gates. We don't get the same in television. His boss, Dave Cormack's been speaking about it, as you mentioned, Barry. They'll lose 500,000 in the next week or so, Aberdeen, with only 500 fans. And Stephen Glass was asked, the Aberdeen manager, what about football without the fans?
You're at a club like Aberdeen, and I think the biggest impact is going to clearly be the Dundee game at home on Boxing Day and the Rangers game at home on the 29th. There's no doubt we'd rather play that in front of the people that have come home for Christmas to watch us and they've already bought tickets. I think the club provide a safe environment, but we don't make those decisions. If it was playing in front of very, very limited fans, I would rather not play and play in front of a big crowd in those games, 100%. The bit I'm saying that I don't see the reasoning, if that is the case, hypothetically, is why would you say this rule is really important in 4 days, 3 days' time, but not tomorrow night? I don't see the reasoning at all, and I don't see the sense in it.
Davey?
Well, I mean, if Aberdeen lose £500,000 from the Rangers game, I mean, that'll impact on Stephen Glass's plans in the window. And Ryan Hedges, that £500,000, could make the difference. Dave Cormack might feel, well, I'll make up that £500,000. I'll sell Ryan Hedges right now. I'm sure Stephen Glass would rather keep him, even if he's running his contract down. He hasn't given up on renewing his contract, although that seems unlikely. But it's going to impact on budgets right across the SPFL.
Barry, you have to work, no matter whether you're at Rangers or Aberdeen, Celtic, Alloa, wherever you are, there are budgets, and this is an
But
impact.
also, I agree with him because I've been at a lot of lower league grounds, and the clubs, even at League One level, do create a safe environment for the fans. They work really, really hard. All the volunteers, wherever you walk in, it's really professional, and I can imagine it's the same or even better at Premier League level. So all clubs have tried their best to create, first and foremost, safe for the players and the staff, but also, most importantly, for the fans.
But all the test pilots, Barry, that the government allowed last season, I think it was 600 first, then it was 2,000. As far as I'm aware, there was no adverse knock-on effect. There was no spike in the cases after that, and that's a case that all the clubs made who held test pilots event. They said we followed the protocols down to the letter, and there has been no problem. So I don't see why we're back to 500. I don't know who plucked 500, that figure, out of the air.
I mean, I'll be honest, it's not ideal being in separate dressing rooms, but you've got your red zones, everything's well marked, you're sanitised as soon as you walk in, your masks are on. The clubs, I mean, I'm talking about lower level part-time football clubs. They do a brilliant job, and I can imagine the Premier League teams will be even better than that.
Even more so, because football seems to get a bit of a bad rap, but football is doing a massive amount to try to, you can't eradicate COVID, it's a virus that's there, but we're getting it down overall. People are getting jabbed, and football, I mean, you tell us about all the testing and all the protocols.
Yeah, but you can try your best to keep it as safe as possible.
Absolutely.
And that's what these clubs do.
For sure.
As you say, we're testing every single day now.
Yep. And for young people as well, see the mental health, if we were to stop it, I mean, it's okay for a couple of weeks now, but we need to see a way through this. For people, we can't
well, do we lock down every time there's a new variant? That's the question. I mean, do we just close society down every few months?
08 17 17 700, the Go Radio Football Show. What are St Mirren fans thinking tonight? You're up against Celtic. Could there be a shock there? Or will Celtic get back to 4 points behind Rangers? St Johnstone, Ross County. My goodness, how St Johnstone need points tonight, and goals. Only 9 goals so far this season. And Hibs against Aberdeen. Sean Maloney in charge.
The Go Radio Football Show with the Taxi Centre. Save on your new taxi with exclusive discounts across Skoda, Toyota, Ford, Seat and more. Let's go!
Go Radio Football Show, 3 days to Christmas. Paul Cooney, Davy Provan, Barry Ferguson. Highlights, what are the Christmas crackers of this year? I mentioned it to them during the break earlier. They're like, what? Christmas crackers. I know it doesn't sound like it when we're speaking about COVID, but we love the football.
Yeah.
And we all hope you're okay. Christmas crackers of 2021. Davy, choose one.
Throughout the season.
Yeah.
The season.
Yeah.
St Johnstone winning the Scottish Cup.
Yeah.
All day long. And it was just so disappointing that there was no crowd there. Another reminder of just how badly affected the game has been. But for Callum Davidson to pull that off was nothing short of remarkable.
Great shout. 2 cup finals as well, wasn't it, when you think about it? And then to win the Scottish Cup. Amazing. Something that probably never repeat it.
Yeah, I don't think that'll ever get repeated, if I'm being honest with you. And probably one of the lowest budgets in the game up in Scotland, certainly in the Premier League. So what a job. He's going through a difficult time just now, but I think he'll get through it because he's a good manager. He's still got good players, albeit he lost 2 of his best players. Probably Ali McCann being one of them, but listen, he'll get through it, and it's a big game for him tonight. Bottom in the league against second bottom.
I'm going to talk about that shortly. Christmas cracker for you, Barry Ferguson.
Try to get away with that one.
I know you were. I know. Jason
it's got to be
Kerr,
Meg's team.
Yeah,
winning the league. It's got to be, because it was Celtic were so dominant for 9 years, so dominant, and then last year winning it by 25 points, which nobody seen at the start of the season. Because if you'd asked me at the start of the season, I thought, I don't know if it will happen. Rangers winning the league, so to go and win it comfortably by 25 points, it's got to be that.
When did you think? Remember, we used to say every few nights, right, Barry, when are you? And you said, no, not yet, not until it's. But when did you honestly think, I think Rangers are going to win it this season?
Probably the turn of the year. Yep.
Well, the 3 of us were on this station on January the 3rd, whatever it was. The Rangers win against Celtic.
Yeah, I wouldn't say then, but I think gradually that January period they went on that great run again and kept winning games of football and not conceding a lot of goals. And then when you get into the February March time, they weren't going to get stopped. They were they were so high in confidence. It was just going to be a matter of time. Then Celtic collapsed.
It was some Christmas cracker for the Rangers fans, isn't it? Because only diehards would have thought at the start of the season that Rangers, well, nobody would have thought they'll win it by 25 points.
I think very few people saw Rangers winning it at all. I mean, Celtic were odds on. But I think the signs were there for Celtic. You know, the double loss to Sparta Prague in the Europa League. They then go out of the League Cup to Ross County in November. Then get the Dubai situation where they were slaughtered for that, and it all began to fall apart. So, you know, I think the writing was on the wall, you know, a good bit before they lost the New Year Old Firm game.
And Rangers going through the season undefeated.
It's a remarkable achievement, and that's why I've said that Stephen Gerrard, you know, some Rangers fans felt like he was disloyal leaving. I don't think Stephen Gerrard owes Rangers anything. He was brought up here to stop 10 in a row, and he won the one title that mattered. So, you know, I think in the fullness of time, most of the Rangers supporters will feel that he served Rangers really well.
With the Christmas card, surely it would be a good one, wouldn't it, for Stephen Gerrard from the Rangers fans in general now? They've had, 6 weeks to get over it, and they've had an unbeaten run apart from the Cup semi-final.
Apart from the Cup semi-final, it's been a very good transition, and from Gio Van Bronckhorst, no doubt about it. Look, I think some of the Rangers fans would be disappointed, but I think the way that Gio's took over and the way that Rangers have been performed under him, and one thing he's done is he's stopped leaking goals. He's made Rangers more solid. So look, I think the Rangers fans, I'll look back in Stephen Gerrard's time and thank him. And now you need to move on. He's moved on, so Rangers need to move on. They've got a new manager and they're in a good place at this moment in time.
John's on, a Kelty fan, saying Christmas cracker for him was winning the title under Barry Ferguson's team in 2021. So that was obviously another Christmas cracker for you, Barry, winning the title.
It was
coming up
a couple of years during COVID as well. It was difficult not having your fans in, but we're thankful that Kelty got the playoff game, and we had to play two playoff games. And thankfully we got the club up, which they deserve, because the people at the club, the owner, the committee, they're a brilliant group of guys, and the fans. It was good to see the fans at the end of it.
Remember, I watched them. I paid for them and watched them. I watched both games.
That's right. That's right.
At the end. But that must be quite an achievement to bring a team into the actual SPFL, Davey.
Especially when the league were trying to keep them out. Quite deliberately.
I miss his column. You know that he comes out all that stuff. You're right. They did, of course.
They did their best to fix it so that Kelty didn't get up.
They've done that. Certainly the first season we won the league. It was to not get a playoff game. I could not believe it. But you need to forget about that quickly and listen. A new season started, and we just had to. With COVID being about, there was always that chance, David, it was going to get stopped again.
Yeah.
So we had to make sure we got off to a good start, and we did. And obviously, the season ended. We were top of the league. They gave us the league and gave us a platform to get into the playoffs. If they didn't, a second year in a row, I thought it would have been an absolute joke if that never happened.
And how? I mean, they're the only unbeaten team, aren't they?
Yeah, to be fair, Tomo's took over, and he's absolute flying. Only unbeaten team in only British football, I think it is.
You take a pride in that. You must do.
But he's got his own way of playing, slightly different. But listen, some of the players that I brought are still there. But Tomo's doing a brilliant job, and look, there's no doubt in my mind they'll get promoted. They'll win the league this season.
So, the new manager at Hibs starts tonight. This new fad of no, we couldn't get the paperwork through in time. I see that was all the chat the other day. Well, let's hear from Sean Maloney, new manager of Hibs, up against Aberdeen tonight at Easter Road. His ambitions for the club.
Things really. I think initially it was the discussions with the owner and the CEO, the vision that they had for the club, the time period, and then when I started to do looking at the club more, I think the intensity and the passion and support, and trying to connect them really, trying to connect the support with the owner's vision. I think that has to be the priority.
And working with the players.
I think what I really have to do is immediately inspire the players. I have to get them to enjoy a certain style of play. It has to be the style that is the best way to win games. And really, look, I have to inspire players and support. I think that is the first job and the first priority. I think I'll be trying to do that in the next couple of days, next weeks, in between all the matches. Yeah.
Davey, what are you thinking? Sean Maloney now, he was a terrific player.
Yeah. I think he'll get the immediate respect of the entire dressing room. not just because he was a terrific footballer himself, and obviously turned out for Scotland so many times. Also, the fact that he's been coaching with Belgium. I think the Hibs players, when Sean Maloney walks in there, the Hibs players will be thinking, this guy's worked with De Bruyne and Lukaku and Hazard and all these guys. He must be able to improve us. And I think if you get the immediate respect, I think some managers go into a dressing room and they have to earn the respect of that dressing room. I think Sean Maloney will get it immediately he walks in there.
And when he saw Kevin De Bruyne to Kevin Nisbet, that's a plus, isn't it? He's an international striker, and he obviously saw people there that he can help, improve, and they can do something. Because they say they're a big club. I asked Kenny Miller last week, but Kenny, are they a big club? He's obviously a former Hibs player, and they should be bigger than they have been, their record.
Yep, no doubt. I mean, they've got a brilliant support. It's one ground I did enjoy going to. Good support. But one thing about Sean is what an apprenticeship he's had as a coach.
Yep.
As David's just mentioned there, you're coaching. I'm saying some of the best players, a right few of the best players in the world. David just mentioned 3 of them, and then they've got so many more. So, yeah, I mean, it's good to see that he's got the opportunity. Is it a risk? Of course it is, because he's been a coach now. He needs to be a manager where he's going to go in and out of a 24, 25 man squad. He's going to have 14 unhappy players because he can only pick 11, and that's the things that he needs to deal with. But as I said, Martinez, he's a top manager. He's managed in Premier League level. He'd have learned a lot off him, but it's going to be different because he has to be his own man. But he's taking over a club that say they're a big club. They want to finish. They want to win cups. They want to finish. I don't think they'll ever finish first or second. Third place has got to be their aim. And he's going to take over a team which I think's got some real good players.
Do you think, Barry, he'll be a Roberto Martinez clone?
No, I think when I played with Sean, he was very intelligent. He was always a thoughtful kind of guy, and the guy he comes across to me. He's got his own style of play. He will take wee bits and bobs from obviously Martinez, but
and
I think
he should take some.
You've got to. You've got to. I mean, you do that with all the managers I played under. You take bits. You've got your own way of playing, but also you take bits for the managers you work from. But I think Sean will be his own man, have his own style. He's clear. He's wanting to play attacking football. I think that will suit Hibs with the players that they've got. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. But I hope he does well, because he was an ex-teammate of mine at the national team, and as you mentioned, what a real good player he was as well.
For sure. We'll give you the team news. We'll give you your predictions, or you'll give us your predictions. I don't tell you what your predictions are. I tried that once. I got the custard pie. But we'll wind up towards Hibs Aberdeen, St Johnstone Ross County, St Mirren Celtic, and the meetings going on about what's going to happen with COVID.
Where do taxi drivers go when they need to buy a taxi? Well, the Taxi Centre have supplied cars to the trade for over 20 years, and they stock a huge range of motors from the world's leading manufacturers: Skoda, Kia, Toyota, Mercedes, Nissan, Ford, Hyundai, you name it. They've got saloons, MPVs, estates, minibuses, prestige cars, the lot, all under one roof, ready for immediate collection or free delivery anywhere on the mainland UK, with taxi trade exclusive discounts, flexible finance options and no hidden fees. They even throw in registration and 12 months road tax. So if you're a taxi driver who needs a new or used taxi, where would you go? TheTaxiCentre.com. Trade only.
The Go Radio Football Show with TheTaxiCentre.com. Your exclusive taxi trade savings are waiting on you. Let's go!
Go Radio Football Show with the Taxi Centre, trying to spread some Christmas cheer. It's Christmas, Barry. Yeah, we're nearly there.
Yep.
Davey, somebody tell them in government it's nearly Christmas. So look after yourselves, get the jabs. We've been saying it for ages, and look after each other, and obviously people in the health service, etc. But hopefully we make the right decisions, and football does the right thing. I'm not quite sure what to say on it, Davey, because we'll find out what the decision of the SPFL. It's serious business. The most serious thing is people's health. We know that. When you then talk about should it stop now or then or whatever, well, actually, see if it's stopping.
Just stop it. Give it a break for 3 weeks. Having thought about it, that's what we should do for the games. Stop the games, look after the players as well, get ready to start late January, which by then we hope that the hospital admittances won't have gone up the way that they fear that they might, and that then we could then get life going again.
Well, hopefully by that time Holyrood will open the turnstiles again and let crowds back into the grounds, and there won't be too much damage done at all. That for me is the ideal scenario. Bring the break forward.
Admissions, that was the word.
You got there,
I got there eventually. Yep, you're just looking for team news coming in. Hibs against Aberdeen. Sean Maloney in charge for the first time after the cup final defeat at the weekend to Celtic. Up against Aberdeen, who are kind of rejuvenated. Your nephew Lewis will be he'll be bouncing a bit, ready for Christmas.
Yeah, he will be, but that's a brilliant fixture. Hibs and Aberdeen. That's one that I'm sure both sets of players and fans will be looking forward to. Listen, I think the Hibs fans will be out and force tonight, no doubt about it, being Sean's first game. And I thought they did pretty well. Certainly in the second half against Celtic, they made a real game of it. So that'll be a cracking game tonight.
They gave it everything, David, didn't they?
Well, first half hour I didn't think they turned up, Paul. But after that, I think certainly in the second half, whatever was said to them at the half time by David Gray, I think David Gray decided second half, right, you've let yourself down here. Let's see you produce what you produced against Rangers in the semi-final. And the second half, they were much more like themselves. And Kevin Nisbet desperately unlucky with the header that came back off the post. Otherwise, we're going to extra time.
See, Paul McGinn got himself into trouble for his comments. Will we hear some of them?
The second one we're really annoyed about. It's not a foul. And then when it is, the fourth official's holding the board. So we just assume, I think Jamie Murphy could stand over the ball, like as you do, steps away from it. We just assume sub, lets it, no control over the situation, just lets it happen. The goal goes in. I don't know if you see me run into him straight away, get myself booked, but it's just it's inept.
They switched off, Davey.
If first of all, if the fourth official is holding it, has the board ready to make the change, I can understand why Hibs thought the substitution was going to happen, right there. Having said that, the two centre-backs fell asleep. You don't assume anything. What you assume is that Kyogo is going to be on his toes and make sure you're goal side of him. And I thought Kyogo gave the two Hibs centre-backs a real lesson in forward play at the weekend there. I thought, if you're Sean Maloney, you've got that video first thing your first day in that dressing room, you show the two centre-backs how a proper player reacts. You don't assume anything. You're on your toes at all times.
And one of them, your captain, he scored a goal, but
got to be switched on, Paul. No matter if the fourth official's holding the board, and if it's no even a foul, what I would do, I'd go and stand in front of the ball. And he can't take a quick free kick.
Exactly.
So they turn their back, they switch off. Celtic take advantage of that with a good ball over the top. Real good run from Kyogo. So you can use excuses, but I think until the referee actually brings the game to a stop, the game's still going on. You've got to be switched on and focused.
Even if Jamie Murphy assumes that the substitution is going to take place and he's gone off, he stands in front of the ball until it happens.
Of course,
until he gets the hook.
And then young Paul,
even
wouldn't be in trouble.
You even take a booking for that.
Sure.
Because you know what normally happens, David. The Celtic player will go and try and kick it off him. The referee will book you. That's the game. You've got to play with the head.
It's one of the first things you're told when you walk into a senior dressing room. Don't turn your back on corners, free kicks, throw-ins.
100%.
Am I right, Barry?
100%.
0808 17 17 700. The wisdom of Barry Ferguson and Davy Provan here on the Go Radio Football Show with the Taxi Centre. Craig is on the line. Good evening, Craig.
Evening, Paul, Barry, Davy. How's doing?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Doing, Craig?
How are you? What are you thinking about Joe Aribo? Are you worrying? He's playing so well, and apparently Southampton up at the weekend.
Yes, well, I mean, you want to keep him. Of course, you want to keep him. But if Southampton make, the right offer, and for me, that offer would be somewhere in the double digits of millions, maybe 11 or 12 million at least for me, because his value now and in the future with the kind of player he is going to, they will make that and then some on him. So if they'd come in with the offer, I can't see us turning it down. Maybe I don't know how it works. Maybe we could strike a deal whereby if they want to come in and buy him, if they're not, because I don't see him walking straight into their first team if he went in January. So maybe we could get it so that agreements made, they want to buy him, and we basically loan him back until the summer, possibly. But it's a money game, you know, at the end of the day, and we're a bit short on it these days. So the right offer, we will take it, as much as I don't want them to go.
Sure. Barry, what would you think of that? What about the figure? 11 or 12 was Christopher Iyer, not about 12 million.
Well,
Frimpong
in terms
was,
of Southampton,
yeah.
they've got previous success. They've come up to Celtic and took Van Dijk.
Yep.
Wanyama as well.
Wanyama, yep. And I can understand why they're watching Aribo. I've said that at the start of the show. For me, he's been Rangers' top performer. I think he will go at some stage. I hope it's not this season, if I'm being honest with you. And I think if you ask Craig and you ask any Rangers fans, they would have the same opinion. It is going to happen at some stage because of the league we're in up here. And Rangers at some stage will need to sell some of their assets, but I hope it's later.
What price would he be?
He's got to be well over £10 million, Paul. He's got to be. You see some of the midfielders that even go championship level down south. Yeah, you've got to be looking at that, and I think he's well worth it because, as I said, he's an all-round midfielder. He's just some people might say he's a holding midfielder. He can play that position. He can play further forward. He can play in the wide areas as well if needed. And as I said to you, he's added goals to his game, which adds money onto your transfer fee. So I can understand why their club's after him, but I would love to see him stay at Rangers.
He's got the thing that's priceless in the game now, and it's disappearing out the game. He can take the ball up to a defender and go past them, and that is a dying art. You know, not too many players can do that now. Aribo can do that, and he can go either way. He can go right or left. You're never quite sure. Defender's never quite sure whether to show him the outside or the inside, and he's become a huge player for Rangers. I would say anywhere between £10 and £15 million. The problem is that Scottish clubs, and that includes the Old Firm, don't get proper value when they sell players to England. And that's why Van Dijk and Wanyama had to go to bigger clubs via Southampton. So whoever's doing the deal for Rangers would have to make sure there's proper sell-on arrangements as well, so that in the fullness of time, if he does go, they get what they deserve for him.
Could you see Craig's suggestion of a loan period then? So okay, Southampton pay 10, 11, 12 million, but then they loan him back to Rangers. Sounds a good idea, but
it's up to Rangers. It's all if and buts. That'd be up to Rangers to discuss that, but I think Rangers would 100% want to keep him until the summer. I don't think they want to sell anybody in January. They would hope that no big offers come in for their big players.
Craig, what were you wanting to ask? Was it about the winter shutdown?
It was, yeah. Listen, I think we all know health has to come first. And, we've discussed at length where the madness, a number of 500 comes when you're talking about, particularly Ibrox, Celtic Park, 50, 60,000 seater stadiums. But I think the game needs to continue. I think part of the problem we've got here is the teams, certainly the most vocal teams right now that are trying to champion bringing it forward, are teams who will benefit more from it than anybody else. You look at Celtic, from a footballing standpoint, they're dropping down like flies in with injuries. It seems like every weekend they've got another hamstring injury because they're having to play such a high tempo all the time. Their players are knackered, and Turnbull out, Jota out, Furuhashi, Ange Postecoglou says he'll not play until after the break. I wouldn't believe that, because he said he wasn't going to play in the final and he did. My worry about that is then we go and we delay it. All that time goes by, we're still sitting in the same situation with 500 fans. The difference being that Celtic have all their players back fit and have the opportunity that they'll be able to get the players they want to get in January from Japan, possibly back over by the time it's rearranged, and then we're having to play against players we wouldn't be playing against otherwise, and vice versa. We'll end up suffering potentially if it was later in January, because we could have players away in the national tournament. And I know, as I say, health is first and foremost, but we are talking football here, and it's not just Celtic, but because other clubs as well have that, and that's my fear, that they're putting their own self-preservation and own interests before anything else. I think it's in everyone's interest, with Christmas coming up, to get these 3 games played and then go into the break. I really, really, truly do. I think we all need it for the sake of our mental health, because we're a big footballing nation and it helps to keep it going. And I think that to be called off now, I just don't think that's the right thing.
Davy, should the clubs go, and challenge government and say, come on, okay, we'll play on just now, but surely more than 500. It should be proportionate to the size of the ground and the measures that are in place.
Of course it should. The measures are frankly, the measures are ridiculous. The restriction to 500, in huge stadia is clearly wrong. I'm not sure who came up with it. But, Craig's right. Clubs will vote in their own interests here in this. And we understand that Neil Doncaster's people have asked the clubs to express their preference in terms of when the winter break is now going to take place. If you're Celtic, you want to bring the break forward for the very reasons that Craig has just outlined there. But I do think throughout the rest of the league, money will talk. And I think if the clubs feel that by bringing the break forward now and postponing games until later in January, there's a better chance at that time of crowds being back in the grounds, they will vote for that because of income.
News coming in, Leagues 1 and 2 are playing on. Barry, you've just got the news there. Thanks, Rob is on it. Rob McLean keeping us right up to date there as well. So too is John Henry. We've got people on it all over the place. The Championship plus League 1 and 2 have opted not to shut down amid the COVID-19 spike. Instead, all 30 sides will continue with crowds capped at 500. Can't call it crowds at 500, but a move that has been ratified by the SPFL board. Premiership clubs have voted on whether the winter break should be brought forward. A decision expected to be announced later today. So
it makes it easier, Paul, for Championship, League 1 and League 2 at the 500. But in saying that, there is some big clubs still in the Championship, and there's big clubs in League 1, i.e. Falkirk. Falkirk get 3,000-4,000. So look, they've made a decision. It'll be interesting to see what the Premier League do. But in terms of, I can see it for both sides. I can see why Rangers want to play on. I can totally see it, because they're going to lose 3 players in 3 weeks' time to the African nations, and also they've got 2 tough away trips where normally they're full houses, and you've got how many thousand fans you got at Pittodrie normally? 2,000 or 3,000 maximum away support.
Sure.
And then obviously at Celtic Park you've not got any support.
I don't get why the bigger Championship clubs, Barry, the ones who do pull in good crowds, why they would vote to continue when by bringing the break forward there's a better chance of them getting crowds in when these games are rearranged.
I'm just thinking Kilmarnock, there's one.
Exactly.
Kilmarnock, what are Kilmarnock getting? Dunfermline are a well supported team. Even Wraith Rovers get a decent crowd. They're going to lose out on a fair bit of money thinking on it. But the crowds at the 5 or 6 teams that I've mentioned.
And you mentioned Dave Cormack when at the very top of the programme, £500,000 that they'll be out if the Aberdeen Rangers game goes ahead in an empty ground. I mean, if you're Dave Cormack, surely you're saying bring the break forward, and hopefully in 3.5 weeks' time we'll have a full house at Pittodrie. Surely you would, if you're Dave Cormack, that's a no-brainer.
It'd be interesting to see if the Championship clubs, League 1 and League 2, are getting some sort of compensation.
No mention of that so far.
No, is there anything happening in terms of getting any monies?
Get Kate Forbes on.
She was on the business show the other week.
Is there some sort of fund?
Sure. Well, I mean, that's one of the problems. That there is money that has been released in general for business, and they spend so much time fighting about where it's actually come from. Look, it's all public money. Here's breaking news. Whether government money comes from Westminster or Holyrood, here's breaking news. It's our money. It's from the people. So, but no, Barry, there's no word about where it's coming from. But that is the breaking news. Craig, I can tell you the Championship 1 and 2 are not going to shut down at the moment. So I don't know if that augurs well, from your point of view, and we get it. You put it really well. And by the way, club directors have to vote in the best interests of their company. They have to. They've got no option. Craig, you need the wisdom of Solomon. How are you going to spend Christmas? Come on, cheer us up.
Well, hopefully I'll spend it watching some football. No, I think I've been scrambling around trying to figure out where to get my 3-month-old nephews this Christmas, so that's what I'll be doing. But, no, I think the Championship made the right choice there. I do. Like, some of the clubs are bigger, but then look at a club like Livy, for example, or Ross County in the SPL. They're not much bigger than half the clubs in the Championship.
Yeah.
You know, and they want to play on because for those clubs, it's better to, unless there's proper support structures, it's better to have some revenue coming into the ground and even maybe try to get your streams out there because there was more people at home wanting to watch it than getting nothing. But to me, and I don't know if Dave and Barry would agree, I think we're in this situation, I think, because the SPFL, the Joint Response Group, and even the clubs as well, didn't prepare well enough for this. We've seen situations this season already where I think it's a disgrace. I mean, the fact, like tonight, for example, you know, St Mirren being forced to play tonight and against us at the weekend, having scrambled to get players for the loan league that they had on loan, teenagers and kids, because of the ridiculous preparation rules. There should be a competitive element to the rules, and there's just not. It's simply, as long as you get 13 players, so if I could get 13 guys off the street, it doesn't mean it will be a team.
It's heading towards that, Barry, isn't it?
Is this not the second time this has happened to St Mirren? Was it at Celtic Park? They get beat 7-0, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was.
I think you're right, yeah.
Jim Goodman was missing.
Yep, 6. Yep. So you're right, it's the same point. But
I feel for something because, look, they're clearly got a major COVID case, a number of COVID cases, should I say. And it looks to me if he's going to be putting out practically a youth team, but we won't know until we get the team sent through, because I would imagine Jim's not running with a big squad.
No.
But say to get back to the very basics here, you can test players all they want. Some of the players' wives are working, 100%. So the player can go home and get it from his wife or his kids.
Yeah.
So
kids are at school.
Sure. But that's what I mean, Barry. So, clubs can obey every single rule in the book when it comes to COVID and still end up with COVID in their dressing room. It's impossible.
Yeah, you're
to
in a
keep
bubble.
it in.
You're in a bubble in the training ground. Seeing they drive out that training ground, they've got to go home.
Of
and
course,
as David just pointed out, a lot of these players' wives work. A lot of these players' kids go to school. They've got to go out. They're human beings. They would probably have to go to the shops and get whatever they need to get at Morrison's or Asda or Tesco or whatever. So it just doesn't happen in the training ground. They can now also catch it out with the training ground.
Other supermarkets available. Craig, listen.
Marks and Sparks.
Craig, thanks a lot. Listen, have a great Christmas, and we'll speak to you over the festive period, hopefully. Cheers, Craig. Thank you.
Cheers, Craig.
Thank you.
The Go Radio Football Show with the TaxiCentre.com. Your exclusive taxi trade savings are waiting on you. Let's go.
Thanks to Chris for the traffic and travel. The Go Radio Football Show with the Taxi Centre. Just keeping you up to date with the breaking news. So the Championship, the first and second divisions have voted to continue playing. So they were never going to stop, but they had the chance to now to put a break on, because obviously the Premiership stops at the moment after the January the 3rd game. Hearts Hibs. Is it Tynecastle, the match? Next week. But anyway, so the Edinburgh Derby, obviously we've got what we were calling Judgment Day, a week on Sunday. So after that it stops for 3 weeks, and then it's into the cup games. Barry, you know that well. But they're deciding, the SPFL, the Premiership will decide whether or not they continue. Do they stop now, or do they...
Have they got the Dundee vote on yet?
The Dundee, exactly. I know, remember that.
You couldn't make it up, could you?
No. Only in Scotland. Mind you, I'm not so sure, Last week we had all the draws elsewhere that were wrong. Remember the Champions League was wrong last week. Listen, we've got 3 big games tonight. Hibs Aberdeen will have the team shortly. St Johnstone, Ross County, and St Mirren against Celtic. Let's hear a wee bit more from Ange Postecoglou, who's certainly enjoyed the success of winning his first trophy and Celtic's first trophy for, well, it's a year since they won something, but that was the cup final that should have been played and would have been in the summer of 2020. Confused? It's called the COVID days.
That's it. That's the main bit. It's not that I don't take personal pride and I pat myself on the back and well done, Ange, and on we go. But it's, you do it for those reasons, because you're sharing it with people. It's why I love football. It's why I struggled with any individual sports. Not that I was any good at them, but I'm going, well, who are you going to share them with if you win something? You know, for me, it's 5 close mates. I met them all playing football as a 9-year-old, and they're still my mates today. That's what I love about the game. So the people I share it with now, the players and the staff, that's, like I said, that's where the goal is for me, to watch them enjoy that moment, know that I've been a part of it as well, and that in 20 years' time, find me sitting on a rocking chair somewhere, we can reminisce about it. That's the beauty of it, and it's no different to what it does for supporters. I know, because that's the bit they love. That after the game they'll share a beer with their mates, and they'll never forget those moments.
Is he on the edge of great things as a great Celtic manager? Now, there's a question.
No, I think a bit early for that, Paul. Yeah. What I would say is that interview there is why he's so popular within the Celtic support. He is so open and honest, down to earth. There's no ego there. I think the supporters love him. My concern when he came in was he inherited such a shambles. I thought he could go 6, 10, 15 points behind, and knowing this city, I thought the supporters could turn. But he's well on side now within the support, and if he gets the support from the board that he deserves, then Celtic can make a real title race of this.
Because he's taken the heat off them in recent months.
Big time, he's saved their skins, because the support, I think, at long last had seen how deficient those who have been running the club have been. How they allowed the demise of the team over a period of time, highlighted by Brendan Rodgers among others, and Ange Postecoglou has got them off the hook.
Barry, his interviews, they are worth listening to when you hear that. And his pals.
I know he doesn't want to pat himself in the back, but you should pat yourself in the back. He's delivered the first trophy, but it's clear when he does come across as a genuine, down to earth human being, and for me, it was a worry. I'm sure a lot of people were worried. I hadn't heard of him, didn't know much of him. I'm sure Jews would have been the same. Obviously Craig Moore had a bit more info and spoke about him highly, and obviously done a good job in Japan, and he's came here and he's brought a brand of football that's real exciting and attack minded. Still a bit vulnerable and a bit wide open for me at the back at times, but listen, he's delivered the first trophy, and I'm sure that's why the Celtic fans are loving him at this moment in time.
That would have been the big question about the defence, and
still is.
Yeah,
still is. Carl Starfelt at the weekend, I think, and a lot of people have said to me, "Oh, you're too hard on him. Give him time." Well, he's had what, 5-6 months, and I just don't see. And I'm not picking on the boy. I just don't see him being. If Celtic are serious about building a really good side for Postecoglou, they have to get a better quality of player in what is a vital position in any team.
David, what do you think about Vickers?
Carter Vickers.
I think he's doing a good job up here. I think Daniel Levy was flying a kite when he was talking about 10 million. I think good old-fashioned defender, Barry, no frills. I think you get Julian in alongside him or another centre-back, but certainly not Starfelt. I mean, when you look at the mistakes he made in the cup final, that would terrify me if I'm
I thought Hibs would try to play on him, Starfelt, at times.
And you could understand that, couldn't you? You could understand that.
When you said, what do you think of Vickers? I thought you were going to say, what, in Ministers and Priests or something? He looked as though, what's Barry asking me? What do you think of Vickers? What, the Vicar of Dibley? Oh, I get it. Barry now wants to talk about Christmas stuff on the telly. I wondered as well, Vickers? No, I could occasionally, because
you looked at me, I had horns coming out my head there.
But I never actually noticed that watching the game at the weekend. Yep. But now that Barry has mentioned it, they did appear to play on him. And got a result, with the corner that led to the goal needlessly. Hanlon runs off him for the Hibs goal. He missed 2 really good headers at either near post. And I'm not talking about the weekend's game in isolation. I'm talking about for months now. I think the boy is shot.
Where does he rate that success for him, winning a cup here in Scotland?
I always get asked this question. That I can't separate them, because I know they've all had blood, sweat and tears poured into them. Every success that I've been lucky to be part of. But it was special, not just I guess for me personally, but when I looked around that dressing room and you just sort of visualise the individual sort of journeys that some of those guys have had. And like I said, I feel fortunate to be a part of that. And it's something that, again, when dust settles and decided to not do what I do now, I'll reflect on those days, but more importantly, I'll reflect on the people I share them with. That's always been what's special to me. But it was definitely a great moment and one I'll cherish.
So a big weekend for Celtic, winning the first major trophy of the season, the Premier Sports, the Scottish League Cup. Right, here's the first with the team news, the Celtic and St Mirren lineup. St Mirren lineup, and let's see who they've got in that we recognise. So it's Linus in goals tonight, Fraser, Shaughnessy the captain, Dunn, Miller, Reid, Henderson, Kilty, Tanser, Offord and Main. Don't have the subs yet there. And for Celtic, here's the Celtic lineup. Bain, so it's Bain tonight rather than Hart. Ralston, Carter Vickers, Welsh, Scales, Beaton, McGregor the captain, Johnson, Rogic, Moffat, who came on at the weekend, Owen Moffat, and Abada. On the bench for Celtic, there is Hazard is on the bench, the keeper, Taylor, McCarthy, Shaw, Henderson, Montgomery and Juranovic. I mean, the thing that strikes you, Barry, first of all, is with the lineup for St Mirren, there's a lot of names that we don't know so well.
Yeah, there is. There's 4 or 5 names, and if you look at their bench as well, their full bench looks to me if it's young boys as well. So he's certainly missing. There's been a major outbreak at St Mirren, and he's missing some of his most influential players, no doubt about it. Then you look at Celtic as well, they've made a number of changes. Bain is a big one for me, coming in for obviously Joe Hart. Joe Hart doesn't seem to be on the bench as well because young Hazard's on the bench.
Does that maybe make sense though? Sorry, because Bain does get thrown in now and again. Keep his hand in, keep his eye in.
Yeah, could be a point. Or listen, Joe might have picked up a niggle. We don't know. You need to find out before the game or after the game. Obviously the manager will let us know. But Ralston come in, Welsh and Scales are in, and the young boy Moffat. So they're still I look at that midfield three. That's the engine room of our team. Beaton, Callum McGregor and Rogic. That's a strong three.
The Saints subs, I just hadn't spotted them. Urmanski the keeper, Taylor, Jack, McDonald, Kenny and McManus. Davey, what do you make of the lineups for tonight?
I think Joe Hart must be injured. I think the game's too important to Celtic for Ange Postecoglou to play a weakened side, and I think if it's his strongest side at the moment, Joe Hart plays. The one surprise for me, if you look at the bench, Juranovic on the bench surprises me. I think he's been outstanding. So listen, I think it's a side that against a young St Mirren team should and probably will win the game, but it's a night that Celtic can't afford to entertain any complacency at all. You know, the worst thing for Ange Postecoglou will be reading all week that St Mirren are going to put out a shadow side.
Is it?
Well, yeah. I think he'll be saying to his players, look, forget all the talk about shadow sides. We saw Dundee United going to Ibrox and almost getting a point with what effectively was a young reserve side. So they'll have to be in their toes.
Joe Hart was on the radio this morning with Jim White on Talk Sport, so he was on, I wouldn't say media duties, but you know, Jim gets so many people, but he was on this morning. Barry, that is a point, isn't it? We'll find out later what it was. If something did go wrong for Celtic, you say, well, why didn't you play Juranovic?
We spoke about it earlier in the week in terms of Alan McGregor. If you look back at Rangers, Alan McGregor get left out a couple of games. Since Gio's come in, Alan McGregor's played every single game. For me, as I always maintain, a top goalkeeper wins you games as well. It's not just outfield players. And you need to just look back at the League Cup final on Sunday. I thought Joe Hart pulled off a number of top saves. So it must be an injury.
This time last year, it would have been Jack Ross, the manager, up against Derek McInnes. Today, it's Sean Maloney up against Stephen Glass. So Hibs line up, and Hibs will play Hearts. The derby is at Easter Road. Thanks, James. So Hibs tonight. So the cup finalists from Sunday: Macy, Doig, Hanlon, Porteous and McGinn, Boyle, Nisbet, Doyle, Hayes, Allen,
Cadden and Campbell. So Barry will give us the formation, I'm sure, soon. But obviously that's not the formation there, but I see a couple of changes from the weekend. People who started on the bench. On the bench tonight, Dabrowski, Wright, Doidge, Gogic, Murphy, Scott and Stevenson. And for the Dons, Lewis the captain. So that probably means there's no Brown tonight, I would imagine. Yeah, Lewis, Gallagher, Watkins, Ramirez, Hedges, J. Emmanuel Thomas, Ojo, Hayes, Ferguson, Campbell and Bates. On the bench, Woods, Mackenzie, McGinn, McLennan, Jenks, Ramsey and Samuels. Davey, looking at those two lineups, two strong lineups.
Yeah, it's made a few. I think it's 4 changes for Hibs. Josh Doig coming in. I was surprised he was left out at the weekend. Scott Allen, no surprise that he's come in. He can give Hibs something I think that no one else in that squad can. It'll be Campbell off Boyle and Nisbet again, and a midfield 3 of Doyle, Hayes, Scott Allen and Chris Cadden, I would think. Strong Hibs side.
Right, they're missing Newell, central midfielder.
Of course, Barry, yeah.
Joe Newell, who's for me, he's a very good footballer. So that'll be a big miss from Hibs. It'll be interesting to see what formation. I know they went a 4 at the back against Celtic in the cup final, but Jack Ross was big on his back 3. So it'll be interesting to see what formation Sean goes and
Aberdeen
and who plays, because I know the young boy Campbell, who's done really well, plays behind the front 2 normally. But where's Scott Allen going to play? That's normally his position. So it'll be interesting to see what formation he's got.
Would Paul McGinn go into a back 3 if it's going to be a 3?
It could be,
Paul McGinn
right to a back 3 with Hanlon and Porteous. And it'll be Cadden, I would probably say right wing back, Doig left wing back, midfield 3 of Doyle, Hayes sitting with Campbell and Allen, and 2 up top. Obviously the 2 have been playing all the time is Boyle and Nisbet.
Bit of strength, a bit of speed. Cadden's fast, isn't he, Chris Cadden?
I was surprised he was left out as well.
On the bench.
Yep. So there's been a few changes Hibs have made from the cup final. Sometimes it's good to freshen it up, albeit they've done really well in the second half. First half Celtic dominated them, no doubt about it. So he's made a few changes, freshen them up, and it'll be interesting to see if he goes a back 3 or a back 4.
Looking forward to it. You give us the Aberdeen lineup, how you think they will play, and we'll get your predictions. And also, Davey, I don't think we'll see you until the new year.
No.
I'm going to ask you who would be your choice of manager of 2021.
The Go Radio Football Show with the taxicentre.com. Your exclusive taxi trade savings are waiting on you. Let's
Go Radio Football Show. It's an early Christmas edition. Christmas. How many sleeps then, Barry? 3 sleeps till Santa.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
No flies in us.
I love Christmas.
I know you're buzzing, I can tell. I mean, we're all worrying about COVID and we hope everyone's okay, and it gets to everyone. You can tell everywhere the mood, but Christmas is coming. Let's enjoy it. You're off to the Panto on Friday. Davey, you're off to a family celebration. And listen, everyone, thanks for making the switch this year to the Go Radio Football Show. Over 1 million downloads. And we really appreciate every single one of you for tuning in to the programme. Every night from 5 until 7. Tomorrow night, Rob is here. Rob McLean along with Craig Moore and Mark Guidi. And they were here on Sunday with the Boxing Day special. John Hartson, Craig Moore and myself on from 12 until 5. The early game then is St Johnstone against Celtic. And then, yes, Barry, you're looking at me. Yeah.
No, I'm just listening.
Sorry, we're on Sunday.
I thought it was another Vickers moment.
I know. And then, of course, we've got Rangers St Mirren at 3 o'clock, along with Motherwell against Livingston, Hearts against Ross County, and Dundee United against Hibs. Right, tonight 3 games are on. Didn't look as though the St Mirren Celtic game would go on. St Mirren, ravished by COVID, but the game goes ahead. And we gave you the lineups a few moments ago. We'll give them again for St Mirren fans. Linus, Fraser, Shaughnessy, Dunn and Miller, Reid, Henderson, Kiltie and Tanser, Offord and Main. And for Celtic, Davey, you've noticed a couple of things. Bain.
Yeah, Scott Bain, and a bit of a surprise. Ralston, Carter, Vickers, Welsh and Scales. The midfield 3 that Barry was mentioning, Bitton, Rogic and Callum McGregor, rock solid 3 there. And Moffat and Abada and Mickey Johnson.
What a start for Owen Moffat. Not even 20 yet until next month. Amazing, isn't it, Barry? He's come on twice and he's got a League Cup medal already.
Yeah, listen, it's been brilliant for him, brilliant experience. But listen, it's only a couple of games. He needs to. He's had a taste of it, and for me, that should make you even more hungrier. So you go away and you work even harder than you did before to try and force your way into that 18. Because when everybody's fit, as a strong 18, no doubt about it. The reason why he's in is because they've got a few injuries, but it's up to the young boy to go and show he has it to stay in there.
You've heard some good things from Ireland about Liam Scales.
Yep, I'd seen him a number of times because my son is over there playing. Yep. Watched Shamrock where he played, and I've got to be honest with you, I was really impressed with him.
What did you like about him?
I watched him, just very comfy on the ball, very elegant. Watched him live actually 3 times. Watched the full 90 minutes, and I can see the reasons why. I don't think it was just Celtic was interested in him. I'm sure there was a few clubs down south that were looking at him. And you've not seen much of him at Celtic, but what you did, I think it was up at Tannadice, he came on and he got that goal, and I thought he did pretty well. So first start tonight, and it's up to him to go and prove that he has the capabilities to play in the Celtic team.
Could there be any slip up tonight by Celtic? And what's your prediction, Barry? What do you reckon?
No, I can't see. I mean, I know he's made a number of changes, but always go to the area of the engine room and I look at the 3 players that Celtic have got in there, and they 3 can control the game. Then you look at St Mirren, decimated by obviously COVID. They've still got a couple of experienced players in there, but I fully expect Celtic to get to 3 points.
That would bring it back to 4 points. Rangers 7 ahead at the moment, 48 points. Celtic on 41. Davy, what do you reckon tonight?
Well, listen, unthinkable that Celtic would drop anything. You know, given they're 4 points behind Rangers, they can't afford. I don't think for that gap to increase. Always a slight concern, I think, when Kyogo is not starting and not even on the bench. But as Barry said, they should have enough control in the midfield, I think, to create the chances that Celtic would need to win the game.
Give you the team news from St Johnstone against Ross County. No one would have thought we'd be speaking about Ross County, against St Johnstone. And St Johnstone, if I said one of them was bottom of the table, if I'd said that to you at the start, you'd have thought it was the men from Dingwall. But no, it's Ross County. It's St Johnstone. Saints are lining up this way. Parish in goal. So you wonder why Xander Clark isn't. He's not even on the bench.
They've got a few COVID. Yeah. They have 4 or 5 COVID cases as well, St Johnstone.
So Parish, Brown, Gordon the captain, McCart, Dendonker, Davidson, Bryson, Butterfield, Booth, May and O'Halloran. On the bench, Sinclair, Devine, Craig, Crawford, Middleton, Solomon, Ottabor and Muller. Still waiting for the Ross County lineup. What about St Johnstone? How crucial is this game tonight?
Yeah, but we don't need to tell Callum Davison. He knows this is a game that he has to get 3 points. There's no doubt about it. I mean, if you says to me at the start of the season St Johnstone would be sitting at the bottom of the league, I thought you were crazy. We obviously won in the double last year, but I look, you don't become a bad manager overnight. He has lost 2 of his best players in his captain Jason Kerr and the young midfielder Alan McCann, who I thought was a brilliant prospect. So I still look at that team. I know he's got a few COVID cases, but it's still a strong team. And then you look at the bench, you've got Liam Craig and you've got Glenn Middleton there as well, Ali Crawford. So no, I think St Johnstone will get the win tonight. It'll be a close one, 2-1.
2-1.
Yep.
That's all they would need to come off the bottom. St Johnstone, Davy, as you know, start the day on 14 points. Ross County on 15. Dundee on 16. St Mirren on 18 points. So what about St Johnstone?
I think Ross County might just nick that tonight. I think Malky's turned the corner. He made a horrendous start to the season, and the wise money would have been on them being relegated automatically, but he's picked up some really good points recently, and I think St Johnstone's confidence has to be fragile just now. I think Ross County might nick that.
Wow. Barry, what about Aberdeen? Your nephew Lewis is playing. We looked at the Aberdeen lineup and quite a few changes.
Yeah, there is a number of changes, and I think it looks to me that just a old-fashioned 4-4-2 they're going to go. Obviously Lewis in goals, Ojo at right back, left back Johnny Hayes, 2 centre backs would be Bates, and Declan Gallagher, who's not had a lot
Remember?
of football. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
not had a lot of football. Two central midfielders will be obviously Lewis and young Campbell. On the right, I think it will be Watkins. On the left, Hedges, and up top, Ramirez and the Jet.
And the Jet himself, the fans love him when he plays. So to give you, at the moment in the league, they're looking at Aberdeen on 6th spot. They're in 24 points. They're just one behind Dundee United. And what do you think, Davey, for how it's going to go for this one? Hibs, of course, on 23. So massive game again, just 1 point between them.
Yeah, I fancy Hibs. I think Sean Maloney will get a reaction. He's made a few changes tonight. I think he'll get a reaction. Good to see Calvin Ramsey back in the bench for Aberdeen. They need him back in the side.
Terrific young
Be
players.
interesting to see if they get an offer for him in the window coming up.
The word is yes, isn't it?
He looks an outstanding player. I haven't seen a great deal of him, Barry, but
He looks the part,
yeah.
Davey. Yep, I've got to agree with you.
What's your scoreline, Davey?
2-1.
2-1. Sorry, you said 2-1. Still 2-1. Barry, what do you reckon scoreline wise?
I'm going to go with Hibs. I'm looking at Aberdeen. Two big players are missing, McCrory and Scott Brown, and obviously Sean Maloney's first home game. I'm sure you'll have them right up for it. The crowd will be right behind them. Going to go Hibs to win this one.
You're going for Hibs.
Yes.
Yep. So you're going for Hibs. You're going for Celtic, and you're going for St Johnstone. Yep. You're in agreement, guys, tonight. Yeah.
No, I'm Ross County.
You're
I
Ross
think
County.
Ross County
Sorry,
will nick
I
it
beg
in
your
Perth,
pardon. Yeah. Just watching for the Ross County team there, but Mackay has got them really going at it, aren't they? But they've had some good results. They've been unlucky to lose late goals, but they're a decent team.
Yeah, I watched the highlights of the game against Celtic up there. He's been unlucky, Malky.
Let me just check if they're still playing that game. No, it finished in 97 minutes. I saw there was a joke going round today about it.
I've got to agree with Malky.
You probably sent it. It's steady. Yeah.
No, and listen, I think they've had some things go against them, no doubt about it.
Here's
But
the
they've
team.
certainly picked up.
Maynard Brewer, of course, in goals. Vokins, Canchola, Baldwin, Spittle, Callaghan, Watson, Charles Cook, Clark, Hungbo and White. So we've got your predictions. Some news from down south. Chelsea have decided who stays out on loan for the second part of the season. Billy Gilmour stays at Norwich. So that's good news, isn't it?
Brilliant news, because listen, Dean Smith coming in, put him straight into the team, and he's been performing ever so well. The most important thing for Billy, as he plays week in, week out at Norwich, and I'm sure he'll go back, do his pre-season at Chelsea and force his way in there next season.
Tottenham West Ham, Davey, who's going to win that one tonight, the London Derby?
West Ham, go with my old teammate, my big buddy, Big Moisey.
Moyes. Barry, what do you think?
I wouldn't bet against them. I mean, I was impressed with Liverpool at the weekend, but
Go Scotland. Plus Harry Kane should have been off, shouldn't he?
100%.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
Just sending off, no doubt about it.
And Liverpool against Leicester.
Liverpool
Gotta
can't
be
go against
isn't it?
Liverpool.
Leicester haven't won there, I think, in many years. Davey,
yeah, Jurgen Klopp side for me.
it's got to be. Davey, we won't see you until next year.
No.
So, manager of the year. Let me throw this at you. For this year, 2021, who would it be in Scotland?
Steven Gerrard. Well, to win the title by 25 points. That's a title that I never gave Rangers any hope of winning. And to do it as comfortably as he did was some effort. Steven Gerrard for me.
And player of this year, while you think about it. Well, I'm going to ask Barry what he makes of that. The manager of the year?
Yeah, Steven Gerrard, closely followed by Callum Davison.
Yeah, of course, because it was so tight. And the late manager of the year, can we throw in the name of Dick Campbell, which is phenomenal what he's doing at part-time Arbroath, top of the
Remarkable.
championship.
Absolute unbelievable job that he's doing there, and he's got it up to the top of the championship, part-time, lowest budget in the league. What a man, what a manager.
And you know what it's like managing part-time against mainly full-time players.
It's hard because sometimes they can't turn up for training because they've got to do overtime or whatever. So that's all the things that Campbell's got is up against. But what a job he's done over the years since he's went to Arbroath.
I think Barry's probably better qualified than anyone to talk about the difficulty of having a part-time team in against the full-timers. And to me, it's absolutely astonishing. I mean, if he even can keep them in the top four by next May, he's manager of the year for me.
He sure is. He's been phenomenal.
You'll may get a statue if he wins that league.
Oh, sure.
He'll get blown into the
Him and the
water.
family. Davey, finally, before you go, is any word of your old team Kilmarnock, who's taking over from Tommy Wright, who disappeared at the weekend?
They won't be short of applicants. I mean, if they could, and I'm sure if Derek McInnes is not on their wish list, I'd be very surprised. Whether Derek would take it, I don't know, but it would be a great appointment, I think.
Barry?
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant job to get. For me, Premier League team, tough season last year. I think there'll be so many managers desperate to get that job.
Jack Ross, maybe one of them.
Stephen Naismith.
Stephen Naismith as well, yeah, of course. Great Kilmarnock player, that's where he came from. Went to Rangers, went down south. That is a good shout, isn't it?
But I think the big managers will want that job. That's they're a big club, Kilmarnock.
Listen, we won't see either of you until after Christmas, so have a great Christmas.
You too.
Yeah, you too.
And hopefully we'll see you, Davey, along with Barry and myself on Judgment Day, January the 2nd, if it's on. Thanks very much. Enjoy the matches tonight. Jokel Day is up next. Rob's here tomorrow night, live at 5.
The Go Radio Football Show with the taxicentre.com. Your exclusive taxi trade savings are waiting on you.
Let's go! Where do taxi drivers go when they need to buy a taxi? Well, the Taxi Centre have supplied cars to the trade for over 20 years, and they stock a huge range of motors from the world's leading manufacturers: Skoda, Kia, Toyota, Mercedes, Nissan, Ford, Hyundai, you name it. They've got saloons, MPVs, estates, minibuses, prestige cars, the lot, all under one roof, ready for immediate collection or free delivery anywhere on the mainland UK. With taxi trade exclusive discounts, flexible finance options and no hidden fees. They even throw in registration and 12 months road tax. So if you're a taxi driver who needs a new or used taxi, where would you go? TheTaxiCentre.com. Trade only.